What if I told you that the next war isn't going to be fought with tanks? It's going to be fought with tariffs and crypto and gold. That's what we're seeing happen right now between the United States and China, and you are right in the middle. In this video, I want to show you what's going on, how you can protect your portfolio, and most importantly, how you can find investment opportunity to increase your wealth through this shift. Let me start with the background. The United States and China are competing to have the strongest economy, to have the strongest currency, and to have the biggest presence with cryptocurrency. Starting with the economy, the United States economy is significantly larger than China's. Right now, the United States economy is about $30.5 trillion large. This is our GDP, which is a measure of all spending that happens in our economy. China's economy is about $19.3 trillion large. So this looks like the United States is significantly ahead, but there's one problem. The United States economy isn't growing as fast as China's economy. The United States economy has an average growth rate of around 3.8%, while the Chinese economy has an average growth rate of around 4.8%, which is why economists are predicting that China is going to have the largest economy in the world by 2035, assuming that China's economy continues to grow faster than the United States. And the reason why this matters so much is because we are able to do a lot of things because we're the largest economy in the world, such as spend a lot of money that we don't have here in the United States, because the largest spender in the United States economy is not Amazon or Apple or Nvidia, it is the United States government. So a big part of our economic growth is actually spending by the United States government, which is why it is so important for the United States to continue to be this world leader in the economy, because it helps the United States continue to be the world's reserve currency with the United States dollar. By the way, this is one of the reasons why President Trump has been so adamant about putting tariffs on China. It's not just a way to generate tax revenue from tariffs, but it's also a way to hurt the Chinese economy, because the Chinese economy has been so reliant on American businesses manufacturing things in China. So as the United States and China are competing in terms of the economy, President Trump wants to move these American businesses out of China, because these businesses in China are making more money for the Chinese people, the Chinese economy, the Chinese government. And this is where President Trump says we're going to make it more expensive to manufacture and build and do business in China. That way businesses move out of China, and that is a way to, number one, generate tax dollars, but then number two, hurt the Chinese economy as a way to keep strengthening the American economy. That way we can continue competing and winning against China. Which brings us to concern number two, the fight over the strongest currency. Our dollars, what we call money, used to be backed by physical gold. But that changed in 1971 when President Richard Nixon temporarily took the dollar off of the gold standard.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
The reason why he did that is because the United States government had a lot of debts and we could not pay them back. So we had a lot of foreign governments, especially in Europe, that were demanding that the United States give them our gold. And that was when President Richard Nixon said, you know what, instead of us doing that, how about we take the dollar off of the gold standard? This way we, the United States government, can essentially print an unlimited amount of money. And that's what they did. The United States government printed a lot of money, and then they just gave these countries these dollars, which were backed by nothing. Instead of being backed by gold, it was backed by a promise that, hey, these dollars have value because they're backed by the United States government, which has the strongest currency because we are the world's reserve currency, which is backed by our economy, which is the world's largest and strongest economy. And this has given the United States a lot of ability to continue spending money, because as the world's reserve currency, we have the ability to print more money. And as we print more money, we can keep injecting this money into our economy to help the economy grow and help its citizens be richer, because there's more money in our economic system. And because we're the world's reserve currency, people continue to have faith in that dollar, even though we keep printing more and more of it. That's why it's very important for the United States to continue being the world's reserve currency, because it allows us to continue having strength in our currency and our economy. Well, what's also been happening is we have some investors around the world that have been noticing this trend of the United States working to print more money, this concern about inflation. So we've been seeing more and more people internationally start to distance themselves away from the dollar out of fears of the dollar losing its value. This is called de-dollarization. And again, this is where China comes into play, because China says, is the United States dollar potentially getting weaker? Let me try to come in and seize this opportunity because we've been seeing the Chinese central banks working to hoard more gold. They've been buying physical gold at record speeds as a way to hopefully help strengthen their currency. Again, the Chinese yuan is not as strong as the United States dollar, but they're hoping that if they can continue strengthening their economy and they can continue hoarding more gold, then maybe their currency one day has a shot to potentially replace the dollar. Is it going to happen? I don't know, but that's what they're working for. But the United States is also fighting back with China by doing some things a little bit differently. For example, in August 2025, the Federal Reserve Bank published an article talking about our gold reserves in the United States. What the Federal Reserve said is that they're considering, quote, revaluing the government's 261.5 million troy ounces in gold, which is currently valued at $42.22 per troy ounce. So if we do some basic math, we have 261 million ounces of gold, which has not been fully verified yet. This is currently being valued at $42.22 an ounce, which means on our balance sheet, we have around $11 billion worth of gold on our books. And what the Federal Reserve Bank is saying, what if we change this value right now because gold prices have gone up so much, and the Federal Reserve Bank is proposing revaluing our gold at around $3,300 per ounce. So now it just becomes a different math equation. If we take this number and we change it to 3,300, now we don't have $11 billion worth of gold. We all of a sudden have $860 billion worth of gold. Why does that matter? Because as an investor, when you think about which currency is the strongest, well, now our dollar and our economy is not backed by $11 billion worth of gold. We are now backed by $860 billion worth of gold, and we didn't even have to buy another ounce of gold. Again, this is why it is so important for you to be an investor, because if the value of your dollar is going down, and we've seen that happen decade after decade after decade, well, you want to own assets that are going to go up in value, because that way you can at least preserve your wealth and hopefully even grow your wealth. That way you can continue to become wealthier. Again, if you are an investor or want to become an investor, I have a free investing masterclass for you where I walk you through how you can get started as an investor and how you can actually research investment opportunities to find them before they hit the headlines. I'll show you the exact framework that my firm and I use to research opportunities before, well, they hit the major headlines. It's a completely free masterclass. There's a ton of value in there. And when you register for the masterclass, you're also going to get access to Market Briefs, which is my newsletter for investors, all for free. So if you want to get the investing masterclass and Market Briefs all for free, all you have to do is register, and I have the link for you down in the description below. And then of course there's cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and President Trump says that he wants the United States of America to be the Bitcoin capital of the world. And not surprisingly, the biggest competitor to the United States when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto is China. And the reason why this crypto fight between China and the United States matters so much is because this crypto fight is going to impact the value of your dollar, it's going to impact the value of your investments, and it can also impact inflation. Starting with the dollar, President Trump recently gave a speech where he said that crypto helps the dollar, and if we are not the crypto dominator, that China is going to win and that is going to help their currency. Now that might have you scratching your head. How is it that crypto could help the value of the dollar? Well, according to President Trump, if the United States leads the battle for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, that means that we're going to see more business in the United States, particularly when it comes to things like crypto infrastructure. That's things like crypto mining and financial transactions, and that not only preserves, but it also builds the United States as being the financial capital of the world, and that does not allow China to take our place as the financial capital of the world. This impacts your investments because we're seeing a changing of regulations here in the United States to make it more favorable for companies to want to operate crypto-related stuff here in the United States. And we're also seeing more funding going into this crypto industry to continue boosting those investments, which all of this can ultimately impact inflation, because if we start to see more money created in order to fund this infrastructure, well, that creation of money obviously creates inflation, but because of this fight happening between the United States and China, the United States has more tariffs on countries like China. These tariffs can then impact the prices of things here in the United States, because if businesses have to pay more money to produce a product, because either they're producing it in China and it costs more, or they have to move the manufacturer to a new country, and now this cost of manufacture has gone up. Now the business has to ultimately pass that cost down to you, which then can impact the cost of your products. So yes, it can also impact inflation, because the United States government does not want to lose the battle to China, whether it comes to crypto, whether it comes to your currency, or whether it comes to the economy. So now that you understand what's going on, let's talk about how all of this could create a potential investment opportunity for you. Because what every savvy investor wants to know is, where where's the money moving? And we know that the United States and the Chinese government are competing to have the strongest economy, to have the strongest currency, and to have the strongest crypto. We're competing to have the strongest economy with China by putting tariffs on China. What is that doing? Number one, it's bringing more tariff revenue to the United States, but number two, it's making it more expensive to do business in China, forcing businesses to leave the Chinese economy, which hurts the Chinese economy. In addition, as a rebuttal, the Chinese government is also limiting the export of certain products from China into the United States, which means there's a shift in our supply chain, which can create an investment opportunity. Number two, when it comes to currency, we know that the Chinese government has been working to acquire more gold. We've been seeing other countries working to acquire more gold, while the United States government is also working on our gold strategically as a way to compete in terms of currency against China. And then when it comes to crypto, President Trump has made it very clear that he wants America to be the world's leader of crypto, and he does not want to lose that war to China. So let's go deeper now that you understand what's going on into what does that mean when it comes to investing. Now, I gotta let you know, investing has risks. You're never guaranteed to make money when you invest. In fact, you will lose money at some point. So make sure you always do your own due diligence and never blindly trust a random guy on YouTube. I'm gonna go over specific examples, but again, I'm not telling you what to invest in. My goal is just to help you think like an investor. Remember, what every savvy investor wants to know is where's the money moving? And we know that the United States government wants to be the world's leader in crypto because it's going to help the dollar, it'll help our economy, and it'll help us continue beating China. And so the United States government is changing regulations, and they're also putting money to help that happen. So that could create an investment opportunity when it comes to cryptocurrency infrastructure companies, because now the United States is being more favorable towards crypto, especially compared to where we were 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago. So that could create an investment opportunity. This could be things like crypto mining companies. This could be things like GPU suppliers. This could be things like data centers. This could be things like blockchain ETFs. There's a lot of different ways to play it. Of course, crypto is one of the more risky side of things, but I want you to start thinking, if that's something that you believe in, where is the money moving? Number two is understanding the gold trade. Now, I know gold prices have shot up a lot in 2025. They've shot up a lot since the pandemic. And could we see gold prices correct and fall? Sure, absolutely. But when it comes to gold, understanding that the price of anything, whether it's a house, a stock, or gold, depends on supply and demand. And one of the largest buyers of gold in the world right now is China, because the Chinese government is working to acquire more gold as a way to strengthen their currency. We're also starting to see other central banks around the world also working to acquire gold as a way to strengthen their currencies, because we know that, well, some countries around the world don't like the United States dollar being the world's reserve currency, and they want to distance themselves and they want to strengthen their currencies. And one of the ways that they're doing that is just by acquiring gold. Could that create an investment opportunity for you? Potentially. And again, there are many ways to get exposure to gold. You can invest in gold mining companies. You can invest in paper gold ETFs. You can invest in physical gold and buy the actual gold coin, gold bars, that way you own the precious metal for yourself. The third opportunity that you can consider and want to understand has to do with rare earths. Now, I made entire videos explaining this, and I'll link it for you down in the description if you want to learn more. But one of the biggest impacts of these tariffs on China is that the Chinese government has limited the export of rare earths into the United States. Now, what are rare earths? It's just a group of a bunch of metals that are used in technology, they're used in our energy, they're used in defense, that companies in the United States and really around the world need these rare earths, and China is the leading producer and manufacturer of these rare earths. They're not just rare in the ground. That's not really what it means. What it actually means is it's difficult to refine these metals. And for years, China has been the world's refiner of these rare earths. Well, now, in response to these tariffs being put on China, in response to these tariffs hurting the Chinese economy, China has begun limiting the export of these rare earths to the United States. Now, this is where the United States government, along with private companies here, are working to rebuild our supply chain of these rare earths here in the United States, which can, again, create an investment opportunity for you. So there are companies in the United States that specialize in these rare earths. There are ETFs that specialize in this type of mining. That could be an investment opportunity for you to consider if you believe that this is going to continue to go up. And then number 4 is the backbone of the American economy, anything to do with manufacturing and where we're going to see more manufacturing, because we know that President Trump has a big push for Made in America. He has a big push for manufacturing in the United States, and that's happening through, number 1, pushing companies to make in the United States, incentivizing them with lower tax rates if you make in the United States versus higher tax rates if you manufacture outside of the United States, and tariffs if you manufacture outside of the United States as well. So if we see more manufacturing in the United States, you also want to understand which industries are going to be manufactured in the United States. So if we continue to see more push for things to be built in the United States, that could mean investing in industrial companies, the companies that are building the factories, that are building the machinery. It could be the freight, the railroads, the things that are transporting goods from one factory to the other. It could be semiconductors, because President Trump has made it very clear that he wants the United States to lead when it comes to semiconductor manufacturing. It could be things like robotics, because there's a lot of money going into this AI and robotics industry. And to be frank, we're not the leading in the world when it comes to robotics manufacturing or robotics innovation. And there's a lot of money going into that. And we know that the Trump administration wants to see more growth in that as well. So we are seeing a war between China and the United States. Right now, it's not being fought with tanks and guns. It's being fought through the economy. It's being fought through currencies, and it's being fought through cryptocurrency. And we know that President Trump is trying to hurt the Chinese economy through tariffs, and he wants to strengthen the United States economy, not just through tariff revenue, but by bringing business back into the United States. Then when it comes to the currencies, we know that the Chinese government is working to strengthen their currency by buying more gold, while the United States government is considering revaluing our gold to make our balance sheet look stronger and bigger. That way investors feel more confident investing money into the United States. And then when it comes to cryptocurrency, we know that China is working to strengthen their crypto presence, while the Trump administration and the United States government is also working to strengthen our crypto presence. What does this all mean? Well, there's a lot of economic things going on in the background, and you want to know, where is the money moving as an investor? And we talked about 4 different places. Again, I can't tell you what to invest in. I'm just trying to show you how to think like an investor. Again, if you want some more resources, I have my investing masterclass for you down in the description, where I'll show you how to research and how to analyze these types of investments. Again, that link is for you down in the description. But I talked about crypto infrastructure, because we know that, well, the United States wants to be the Bitcoin capital in the world. Could that create an investment opportunity if more money is moving there? We talked about gold, because we know that countries around the world are working to strengthen their currencies. And if they're buying more gold, it can help support the price of gold. Then we talked about rare earths, because we know that these metals are necessary in our economy to do business. And the Chinese government is now limiting the export of these rare earths into the United States. So the United States government and other investors are getting behind building this rare earth supply chain here in the United States. And then we talked about American industry, because if we do start to see more manufacturing in the United States, because companies feel incentivized either through lower tax rates or by avoiding tariffs to move this manufacturing back in the United States, that could mean certain manufacturing goes up. That can benefit the companies that are making these manufacturing plants, that are making the machinery inside the manufacturing, that can benefit the semiconductor industry, that can benefit the robotics industry. This is what you need to be thinking about as an investor, which is, where is the economy moving and how can that create an investment opportunity for you? And finally, if you got value out of this video, the best thank you is a referral. So if you could, please share this video with a friend, family member, colleague, or fellow investor. That way we can continue to spread this type of financial education. Thank you. China wants to stop the United States from accessing the rare earth metals which power our defense and technology and energy. And this is where the United States is scrambling to take back control before it's too late. This isn't just a trade war anymore. This is a global power shift, and you want to pay attention to this, because it is going to create unique